I found out my business partner hired the person who harassed me. I stared at the email signature in disbelief. Marcus Chen, senior developer. The coffee mug slipped from my fingers, ceramic shattering against my office floor as hot liquid splashed across my shoes. Marcus fucking Chen. The same Marcus who cornered me in the server room at Dataflow 3 years ago, hands wandering where they had no business being. The same Marcus who sent me late-night messages about what he wanted to do to me. The same Marcus who made my life hell until I finally quit the best job I'd ever had. And now he was here. In my company. My hands shook as I scrolled through the company directory. There it was, plain as day, Marcus Chen, hired 2 weeks ago, reporting directly to the development team. 2 weeks. He'd been here for 2 fucking weeks, and I had no idea. I stormed down the hallway, past the motivational posters and ping-pong table that suddenly felt like props in some sick joke. Our office in downtown Seattle had always felt like a sanctuary, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay, open workspace designed for collaboration, the kind of place where innovation thrived. Now it felt contaminated. Jake's office door was open. My business partner sat behind his standing desk, typing away on his MacBook, completely oblivious to the fact that my world had just imploded. We'd built TechFlow solutions from nothing 18 months ago, scraping together $200,000 in seed funding and working 16-hour days to make it profitable. Jake knew my history. I told him everything about why I left Dataflow, about Marcus, about the harassment that made me question whether I even belonged in tech. Jake. My voice came out sharper than intended. He looked up, his usual easy smile fading when he saw my face. Emma. What's wrong? Marcus Chen. The color drained from Jake's face. For a split second, I saw guilt flash across his features before he quickly composed himself. That tiny reaction told me everything I needed to know. You hired him. It wasn't a question. Jake closed his laptop and sighed. Emma, let me explain. You fucking hired him. My voice rose. After everything I told you. After you promised me that I'd never have to deal with that kind of situation again. He's incredibly talented, Jake said, standing up. His GitHub portfolio is impressive, and we needed someone with his React expertise for the Morrison project. The client specifically requested. I don't give a shit about his GitHub portfolio. I slammed my hand on his desk. He sexually harassed me, Jake. 4 months. I had panic attacks driving to work because of him. That was 3 years ago, Jake said quietly. People change. Maybe he's. People change. I stared at him in disbelief. Are you seriously defending him right now? Jake ran his hands through his hair, a nervous habit from our startup days. Look, Emma, I know this is awkward, but we're professionals. We have 43 employees now, a $2.3 million yearly revenue, and 3 major clients depending on us. We can't make hiring decisions based on personal history. Personal history. Like sexual harassment was some petty office drama. You went behind my back, I said, my voice deadly quiet. You hired my harasser without telling me. I knew you'd react like this. Wrong thing to say. Very wrong thing to say. Get out, I whispered. Emma. Get out of my office. Jake grabbed his laptop and left. I locked the door behind him and leaned against it, heart pounding. 43 employees. $2.3 million revenue. Fine. If Jake wanted to play this game, I'd show him exactly what personal history could do to his precious numbers. I spent the next hour in my locked office, researching everything I could find about Marcus's hiring. Our company Slack channels, HR documents, email threads, anywhere Jake might have left a trail. What I discovered made my stomach turn. The hiring process had been deliberately hidden from me. Jake had conducted all the interviews himself, bypassing our usual collaborative approach. He'd even marked the meeting invites as client calls to avoid suspicion. The background check request was filed under a generic vendor account, not our usual HR software where I would have seen the notification. But the worst part. Marcus had started the same week I was in San Francisco meeting with our biggest potential client, Meridian Tech. Jake had planned it perfectly, knowing I'd be too distracted with the $800,000 contract negotiation to pay attention to new hire announcements. My phone buzzed. A text from my assistant, Sarah, asterisk everything okay? Jake seems upset. Also, there's broken coffee mug in your office, asterisk. I ignored it and kept digging. Marcus's employee file was a masterpiece of selective information. His resume listed his time at Dataflow as 2019 to 2022, senior developer, with glowing recommendations from our former CTO, Richard Novak. Richard, who had been Marcus's drinking buddy. Richard, who had dismissed my harassment complaints as miscommunication and professional differences. Jake had called Richard as a reference. I found the email thread buried in Jake's sent folder. Apparently, our company Gmail was still synced to the shared iPad we used for client presentations. Richard's response was exactly what I'd expected. Marcus is brilliant. Any issues with Emma were personality conflicts. You know how she can be, a bit intense, takes things personally. How she can be. Takes things personally. Like having someone grab your ass in a server room was a personality quirk. I screenshotted everything. At 2:47 p.m., I heard Marcus's laugh echoing from the main workspace. That same loud, obnoxious laugh that used to make my skin crawl. I peeked through my office blinds and saw him at the development cluster, already buddy-buddy with Tom and Alex from our front-end team. He looked exactly the same, khakis and a polo shirt, that cocky smile, gesturing wildly as he explained something on his monitor. Tom was nodding enthusiastically. Alex was laughing. They had no idea who they were dealing with. My desk phone rang. Jake's extension. What? I answered. Emma, we need to talk. Can you come to conference room B? I'm busy. It's not a request. Marcus is here with me. We're having a team integration meeting, and as co-founder, you should be present. The audacity was breathtaking. Jake was forcing a confrontation, probably hoping that professional pressure would make me fall in line. Play nice for the sake of the company. I'll be right there, I said sweetly. But first, I opened my laptop and started typing an email to Jennifer Walsh, our primary contact at Meridian Tech. Jennifer, who had specifically mentioned during our San Francisco meeting that her company had a zero-tolerance policy for harassment. Jennifer, who had asked detailed questions about our company culture and values. Subject, confidential concern regarding TechFlow Solutions team member. Hi Jennifer. Asterisk, I hope you're well. I wanted to reach out confidentially regarding a situation that has developed since our meeting last week. I've recently learned that we've hired an individual with a documented history of workplace sexual harassment. As someone who values Meridian's commitment to maintaining safe work environments, I felt obligated to bring this to your attention before we finalize our partnership agreement. Asterisk. Asterisk, I have documentation if you'd like to review the details. I believe Meridian deserves to know exactly who they'd be working with. Asterisk. Best regards. Emma Rodriguez. Co-founder, TechFlow Solutions. My finger hovered over the send button. $800,000 contract. 18 months of work. Jake's dream of expanding to Portland. Marcus's laugh echoed through the office again. I hit send. Time for that integration meeting. Conference room B felt like a tribunal. Jake sat at the head of our glass table, laptop open, wearing the same serious expression he used with difficult clients. Marcus lounged in a chair directly across from where I'd have to sit, that familiar smirk playing at his lips. Emma, Marcus said as I walked in, voice dripping with false warmth. It's so good to see you again. Jake told me you were co-founder here. Impressive. I didn't respond, taking the seat furthest from both of them. Jake cleared his throat. I thought we should all sit down and clear the air, he began. We're going to be working together, so. Actually, we're not. I placed my phone on the table, finger poised over Jennifer Walsh's contact. I just sent our Meridian Tech contact some very interesting information about our new hire's background. Funny thing about clients who value workplace safety, they tend to ask a lot of follow-up questions. Jake's face went white. Emma, what did you do? Due diligence. Something you should have done before hiring a sexual predator. Marcus's smirk vanished. Whoa, hold on. That's a serious accusation. Accusation. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. I have your text messages, Marcus. Screenshots of every disgusting thing you sent me at 2 a.m. I have the HR complaints I filed that your buddy Richard buried. I have witness statements from 3 other women at Dataflow who came forward after I left. That last part was a lie, but Marcus didn't know that. His Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed hard. Jake, I think there's been some misunderstanding, Marcus said, suddenly much less confident. Emma and I had some professional disagreements at Dataflow, but nothing like what she's describing. My phone buzzed. Text message from Jennifer Walsh, asterisk, this is very concerning. Can we schedule a call within the hour? Meridian will need to review all documentation before proceeding, asterisk. I held up my phone so Jake could see the preview. 1 hour, Jake. She wants to review everything. You're sabotaging our biggest contract over ancient history, Jake hissed. This is insane. Ancient history. I stood up, chair scraping against the floor. Marcus, tell Jake about the server room incident. September 15, 2021, approximately 6:30 p.m. Tell him exactly where you put your hands. Marcus's face flushed red. I never, that's not how it happened. Tell him about the text you sent me that night. The one where you said you knew I wanted it, because I smiled at you during the team meeting. Emma, stop, Jake pleaded. We can figure this out. Maybe Marcus could work remotely, or transfer to a different project. Remote? I turned on Jake. So he can harass women at his next company. Transfer him so he becomes some other woman's problem. My phone rang. Unknown number, but I recognized the Seattle area code. This is Emma. Ms. Rodriguez? This is David Kim from Redstone Ventures. I believe you're familiar with our investment in TechFlow Solutions. My blood turned to ice. Redstone was our lead investor, $400,000 of our seed funding came from them. David Kim was a partner there. I just received a very interesting call from Jennifer Walsh at Meridian Tech, David continued. She's concerned about some personnel issues at your company and wanted our perspective on TechFlow's commitment to workplace safety. Jake was frantically waving his hands, mouthing, hang up, but I ignored him. I see, I said carefully. What kind of perspective was she looking for? The kind that makes investors nervous about their portfolio companies. We're going to need a detailed explanation of your hiring practices, immediately. Can you and Jake be at our offices by 5 p.m. today? I checked my watch, 3:22 p.m. Of course. We'll be there. I hung up and looked at Jake, whose face had gone from white to green. Redstone Ventures. 5 p.m. They want to discuss our hiring practices. Marcus pushed back from the table. Look, maybe I should just resign. This seems like a lot of drama for. Oh no, I said, smiling for the first time all day. You're not going anywhere. We're all going to see this through together. The next 90 minutes were a masterclass in watching two men panic in real time. Jake spent 45 minutes on damage control calls, his voice getting progressively more strained with each conversation. I could hear him through his office door, alternating between apologetic and defensive as he tried to explain to various stakeholders why our biggest client was suddenly questioning our company values. Marcus, meanwhile, had retreated to his desk and was furiously typing what I assumed were resignation letters or frantic messages to his lawyer. Every few minutes, he'd glance toward my office with the expression of someone who just realized they'd stepped on a landmine. At 4:15 p.m., my computer chimed with a new email. Sarah Chen, wait, Chen. My stomach dropped as I read the sender's full name, Sarah Chen, Human Resources Director at Dataflow Industries. Subject, reference inquiry, Marcus Chen. Dear Ms. Rodriguez. Asterisk, I hope this email finds you well. I'm reaching out because your company recently contacted us for a reference on former employee Marcus Chen. I wanted to follow up personally because there are some details about Mr. Chen's departure that weren't included in the standard reference check, asterisk. Asterisk since you left Dataflow, our company underwent significant HR policy changes following a discrimination lawsuit, unrelated to your situation. As part of that review, we discovered that several harassment complaints were improperly handled, including yours. Marcus Chen was actually terminated in March 2022 for violating our harassment policy after 2 additional incidents came to light, asterisk. Asterisk the reference provided by Richard Novak was unauthorized. He's no longer with the company and had no authority to speak on behalf of Dataflow. Our official records show Marcus Chen as terminated for cause, not eligible for rehire. Asterisk. Asterisk I thought you should know, given your history with the situation. Please feel free to contact me if you need any documentation, asterisk. Best regards. Sarah Chen. HR Director. I read the email 3 times, my hands actually shaking. Marcus had been fired. For harassment. After I left. And Jake had hired him anyway, based on a fake reference from Richard. I forwarded the email to my personal account, then printed 2 copies. One for the Redstone meeting, and one for my growing file of evidence. At 4:30, Jake appeared in my doorway looking like he'd aged 5 years. Emma, we need to get our story straight before. Story. I held up the printed email. You mean the story where you hired someone who was terminated for sexual harassment based on an unauthorized reference? Jake's eyes widened as he scanned the document. How did you, Jesus Christ, Emma? Marcus was fired. March 2022. 6 months after I quit. Apparently, I wasn't his only victim. Jake slumped into the chair across from my desk. He said you two had professional differences. He showed me his portfolio, his GitHub contributions. He seemed genuinely sorry about whatever happened between you. Whatever happened. My voice rose again. Jake, he was fired for harassment. That's not professional differences, that's a pattern of predatory behavior. I didn't know, Jake said weakly. Richard told me. Richard who was also let go, according to LinkedIn. Richard who you didn't bother to verify was still employed at Dataflow. Jake buried his head in his hands. The Meridian contract. Is probably dead. Along with our Series A prospects once Redstone starts asking questions. What do you want me to do, Emma? Fire him. I'll fire him right now. I leaned back in my chair, studying my business partner's desperate expression. 18 months ago, Jake Morrison had been my salvation. A fellow refugee from corporate tech with big dreams and the technical skills to match my business development expertise. We'd worked perfectly together, he handled the back-end architecture while I managed clients and strategy. But this betrayal ran deeper than a bad hiring decision. Jake had actively deceived me, hidden information he knew would matter to me, all for what? A React developer. We could have hired 3 junior developers for Marcus's salary and trained them up. I want you to understand something, I said quietly. This isn't just about firing him now. You broke our partnership the moment you decided my safety was negotiable. Jake looked up sharply. Emma. We have 20 minutes to get to Redstone. Here's how this is going to work, you're going to tell them exactly what happened. The unauthorized reference, the concealment from me, all of it. And then you're going to accept full responsibility for the lapse in judgment that's about to cost us our biggest client and potentially our investor relationship. That'll destroy my reputation, Jake protested. Good, I said, standing up and grabbing my jacket. Maybe next time you'll think twice before prioritizing a harasser's career over your partner's well-being. My phone buzzed with another text. Marcus, asterisk we need to talk before the investor meeting. I can explain everything, asterisk. I showed Jake the message. Your boy wants to chat. How sweet. Emma, please. We can fix this. Fire Marcus, implement new HR policies, do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. I smiled, but it felt sharp as glass. Jake, you haven't even begun to see what it takes. At 4:45, we walked past Marcus's desk toward the elevator. He stood up as we approached. Jake, Emma, I think there's been a misunderstanding about my employment history. I stopped and turned to face him. You mean the misunderstanding where you were actually fired for sexual harassment? Marcus's face went ashen. How did you? Dataflow's new HR director is very thorough, I said sweetly. Unlike our hiring process, apparently. The elevator arrived with a cheerful ding. As the doors closed, I caught a glimpse of our employees watching through the glass conference room walls, sensing the drama but not understanding its scope. They would soon enough. The Redstone Ventures office sat on the 34th floor of Columbia Center, all glass and steel with a view that made Seattle look like a tech utopia. David Kim waited for us in a conference room that probably cost more than most people's annual salaries, flanked by 2 other partners I didn't recognize. Emma, Jake, David said, gesturing to chairs across from them. Thank you for coming on short notice. I set my folder of evidence on the polished table. Jake looked like he might vomit. Before we begin, David continued, I should mention that we've had 3 additional calls since our conversation this afternoon. Jennifer Walsh from Meridian was quite thorough in reaching out to other investors in our network. My stomach clenched. Jennifer had made calls to other investors. That meant TechFlow Solutions has been flagged as a potential liability by Morrison and Associates, said the woman to David's left, consulting her tablet. They represent 2 other companies we've invested in. Apparently, word travels fast in our circles. Jake finally found his voice. What kind of liability? The kind that suggests fundamental failures in leadership judgment, David replied. So let's start from the beginning. Emma, you sent documentation to a major client about an employee's harassment history. Jake, you hired this employee 2 weeks ago. Help us understand how a Series A ready company makes these kinds of basic mistakes. I slid the Dataflow email across the table. Marcus Chen was terminated for cause in March 2022. Sexual harassment. Jake hired him based on an unauthorized reference from someone who was also let go. David scanned the document, his expression darkening. The other partners leaned in to read over his shoulder. You hired someone who was fired for harassment, David said slowly. Without running proper background checks. I contacted his previous supervisor, Jake protested weakly. Who wasn't authorized to give references and failed to mention the termination, I added. Jake also deliberately concealed the hiring from me, despite knowing my history with Marcus. The woman partner, her nameplate read Patricia Santos, looked up sharply. You have a history with this individual. Marcus sexually harassed me at Dataflow for 8 months. Jake knew this when he hired him. The silence stretched uncomfortably. David set down the email and steepled his fingers. Let me see if I understand, he said. One co-founder hired his partner's harasser, lied about it, and based the decision on fraudulent references. Then the other co-founder torpedoed their biggest contract to expose it. I didn't torpedo anything, I said. I informed a client about a serious liability they should know about. A liability you created by hiring Marcus, I added, looking at Jake. Patricia Santos was typing rapidly on her tablet. Our due diligence team is going to need documentation of your entire hiring process for the past year. This suggests systematic problems with your HR practices. Jake's face went pale. Our HR practices are fine. This was one mistake. One mistake that's cost you an $800,000 contract and potentially exposed our investment to discrimination lawsuits, the third partner interjected. Do you understand the liability implications here? My phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number, *, this is Marcus. Meet me in the Columbia Center lobby after your meeting. We need to discuss this situation before it gets worse, *. I showed the message to David. He's here. In the building. David's eyebrows shot up. He followed you to an investor meeting. Apparently so. Patricia was scrolling through something on her tablet. I'm looking at Marcus Chen's LinkedIn profile. He updated his employment status 3 hours ago. He's no longer listed as working at TechFlow Solutions. Jake and I both stared at her. What? According to this, he changed his status to consulting, available for new opportunities at 2:47 p.m. today. The same time I'd sent the email to Jennifer. Marcus had quit the moment he realized I was serious about exposing him. So he's no longer your employee, David said. That's something, at least. But it doesn't address the underlying judgment issues that led to his hiring. Jake was frantically checking his phone. He didn't submit any resignation paperwork. We don't have any official. Check your email, I suggested. Jake's face went white as he scrolled through his messages. Resignation effective immediately. Sent 20 minutes ago. David leaned back in his chair. Gentlemen, lady, we have a problem. Our $400,000 investment is tied to a company that just demonstrated catastrophic failures in leadership judgment, lost a major client, and is now dealing with an employee who's apparently unstable enough to stalk you to investor meetings. The weight of what I'd unleashed was starting to sink in. This wasn't just about exposing Marcus anymore. I potentially destroyed everything Jake and I had built together. But then I remembered his dismissive tone. Personal history, people change. There's something else, I said, pulling out my phone. I documented every step of Jake's deception. Meeting invites disguised as client calls, background checks hidden from normal HR channels, timing Marcus's start date with my business trip. I slid my phone across the table, showing the screenshots I'd taken. This wasn't an oversight, I continued. This was deliberate concealment from a business partner. David studied the evidence, his expression growing grimmer with each screenshot. Jake, he said finally. Is this accurate? Jake's mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air. The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity before he finally spoke. I thought I was protecting the company, he said quietly. We desperately needed someone with Marcus's skill set for the Morrison project. The client was threatening to pull their $300,000 contract if we didn't deliver the AI integration module by December 15th. I knew Emma would never approve the hire, So you decided her consent was optional, Patricia Santos interrupted, her voice ice cold. That's not, Jake stopped himself, realizing how it sounded. I was going to tell her after the Morrison deliverable. Once she saw how valuable Marcus was to the team. David Kim set down my phone with deliberate precision. You were going to present your partner with a fait accompli. Force her to work with someone who harassed her because firing him would hurt the business. Emma's emotional about this situation, Jake said desperately. She can't be objective. Wrong answer. Catastrophically wrong answer. Emotional, I repeated, my voice deadly quiet. About sexual harassment. The third partner, whose nameplate read Michael Torres, looked physically uncomfortable. Mr. Morrison, are you seriously suggesting that sexual harassment complaints are emotional rather than legitimate business concerns? Jake's face went crimson. That's not what I meant. I just think. My phone rang, cutting him off. Marcus's number. Don't answer that, David said sharply. Michael, call building security. I want to know if someone's waiting in our lobby. Michael stepped out to make the call. Through the conference room's glass walls, I could see him speaking urgently into his phone. Patricia was typing again. I'm pulling TechFlow's insurance policies. If you have an employee who was fired for harassment at his previous job, and now he's potentially stalking company leadership, we need to understand our liability exposure. He's not stalking anyone, Jake protested. Marcus is just trying to. To what? I snapped. Explain why he grabbed my ass in a server room. Justify the text messages about what he wanted to do to me. Jake flinched. Emma, please. Not here. Not here. I stood up, chair scraping against the floor. You brought him into our office, Jake. You made it impossible for me to escape this anywhere. So we're absolutely discussing it here. David held up a hand. Everyone take a breath. Jake, I need you to understand something. Redstone Ventures has $500 million under management. We cannot afford to be associated with companies that have fundamental failures in leadership judgment. Michael returned, his expression grim. Security confirms there's someone named Marcus Chen in the lobby. He's been there for 45 minutes, asking about TechFlow's meeting schedule. My blood turned to ice. Marcus had been tracking our movements. Call the police, I said immediately. Emma, that seems extreme, Jake started. Extreme. Patricia's voice could have cut glass. An ex-employee who was fired for harassment is stalking company leadership to an investor meeting, and you think involving law enforcement is extreme? David was already pulling out his phone. This conversation is over. Jake, Emma, we're suspending any further investment discussions pending a complete review of TechFlow's management practices. David, please, Jake begged. This is one situation. Our metrics are solid, $2.3 million revenue, 40% quarter-over-quarter growth, client retention at 94%. Your metrics don't matter if your company is a liability, Michael said bluntly. We have fiduciary responsibilities to our other portfolio companies. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, asterisk still waiting downstairs. Jake's not answering his phone. We can resolve this quietly if you just talk to me, asterisk. I showed the message to David, whose jaw tightened. Building security is escorting him out, Michael reported, hanging up his phone. But this demonstrates exactly what we're concerned about. Patricia closed her tablet with a sharp click. TechFlow Solutions is now flagged as high risk in our investment database. We'll be recommending that our portfolio companies avoid partnerships until this situation is resolved. The weight of her words hit me like a physical blow. In the span of 4 hours, I destroyed our biggest client relationship, triggered an investor review, and now we were being blacklisted from their entire network. But as I looked at Jake's panicked expression, I felt something unexpected, satisfaction. He'd chosen Marcus over me. Now he could live with the consequences. There's one more thing, I said, pulling out the final document from my folder. I've been documenting everything since 3 p.m. today. Every call, every email, every meeting. Jake's responses, Marcus's behavior, the timeline of events. I slid the printed pages across the table. I'm building a hostile work environment case. Against both Marcus and Jake. Jake's face went white. Emma, you can't sue your own company. Watch me. The ride back to the office was silent except for Jake's increasingly frantic phone calls. I watched Seattle's skyline blur past the Uber window while he tried to do damage control with our other clients. Hi, this is Jake Morrison from TechFlow. No, there's been a misunderstanding about our personnel practices. Yes, I understand your concerns. His voice got smaller with each call. Word was spreading fast through Seattle's tight-knit tech community. By the time we pulled up to our building, Jake had fielded calls from 4 different clients, 2 potential hires, and somehow, a reporter from GeekWire. A reporter? I asked as we stepped into the elevator. Someone tipped them off about the Redstone meeting, Jake said miserably. They're calling it another tech startup scandal and asking for comment about our problematic hiring practices. The elevator opened to our floor, and I immediately knew something was wrong. The usual hum of productivity was gone, replaced by clusters of employees whispering in hushed tones. Tom and Alex from the development team looked up as we walked past, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and concern. Emma, Sarah called from the reception desk. You have about 15 messages from people asking about Marcus Chen. Also, your 3 p.m. with the Portland expansion consultants called to reschedule. Jake winced. Our Portland expansion, his pet project, required a clean investment track record. With Redstone pulling back and clients getting spooked, those plans were evaporating in real time. I walked into my office and found a handwritten note on my desk, asterisk Emma, I'm sorry about everything. This got out of hand. Can we please talk privately? I never meant for any of this to happen. Marcus asterisk. My hands shook as I read it. He'd been in my office. In my private space. Jake. I shouted. He appeared in my doorway instantly. I held up the note. He was in here. Marcus was in my fucking office. Jake's face went pale. That's impossible. Security badges are logged. Check the logs. Now. While Jake frantically called our building management company, I opened my desk drawers to see if anything was missing or disturbed. Everything looked normal until I reached the bottom drawer where I kept personal items. My backup phone charger was moved. The small framed photo of my parents was turned slightly. Someone had definitely been searching through my things. Security says Marcus badged in at 4:52 p.m., Jake reported, hanging up. Right after we left for Redstone. He used his employee access card, the system hasn't been updated to revoke it yet. Jesus Christ, Jake. Your harassment hire has been stalking me to investor meetings and breaking into my office, and you still think this is salvageable. Before Jake could respond, my computer chimed with an email notification. The sender made my blood run cold, Richard Novak. Subject, unfortunate misunderstanding. Emma. Asterisk I heard through the grapevine that there's been some confusion about Marcus's employment history. I think we should all sit down and discuss this like adults. Marcus is a good guy who made some mistakes, but destroying his career over ancient history seems excessive, asterisk. Asterisk I'm in Seattle this week for consulting work. Perhaps dinner tomorrow to clear the air, asterisk. Best. Richard. I stared at the email in disbelief. Richard was in Seattle. The same Richard who had dismissed my harassment complaints. The same Richard who had given Marcus that unauthorized reference. Jake, did you know Richard Novak was in town? Richard? No, why would? Jake stopped as he saw my expression. What now? I showed him the email. Jake read it twice, his face cycling through confusion, realization, and finally horror. You think Marcus called him? I think your boy Toy has been busy making phone calls. I forwarded the email to my personal account and added it to my growing evidence file. Richard didn't just randomly decide to reach out today. My office phone rang. Sarah's extension. Emma, there's a Jennifer Walsh from Meridian Tech on line 1. She says it's urgent. I looked at Jake, whose face had somehow gotten even paler. Put her through. Emma, Jennifer's voice was crisp and professional. I wanted to update you on our discussion earlier. Meridian's legal team has reviewed the documentation you provided about Marcus Chen. Jake was gesturing frantically, mouthing, put it on speaker, but I ignored him. What did they conclude? I asked. We're terminating our partnership agreement with TechFlow effective immediately. Additionally, we're going to need a full audit of any work Marcus Chen may have had access to during his employment with your company. My heart sank. An audit? The preliminary work on our project contains some of our proprietary algorithms. If someone with a history of workplace misconduct had access to sensitive intellectual property, we need to understand the scope of potential exposure. Jake was frantically scribbling notes. Ask about cure period 30-day notice partial payment. Jennifer, is there any way we can? Emma, I like you. You did the right thing bringing this to our attention. But Meridian can't be associated with companies that have these kinds of fundamental issues. The line went dead. I set down the phone and looked at Jake, who was staring at his notes like they might spontaneously combust. $800,000, he said quietly. Gone. Plus whatever legal costs the audit brings, I added. Meridian's lawyers aren't cheap. My computer chimed again. Another email, this time from an address I didn't recognize, provenanceinvestigations@gmail.com. Subject, Marcus Chen background investigation. Ms. Rodriguez. Asterisk, we understand you're dealing with a personnel issue involving Marcus Chen. Our firm specializes in employment background investigations and harassment documentation. We have extensive experience with Seattle area tech companies, asterisk. We're prepared to offer a comprehensive investigation at a reduced rate, given the time-sensitive nature of your situation. Please contact us at your earliest convenience. Best regards. Jennifer Kim, Senior Investigator. I stared at the email, my paranoia spiking. How had a private investigation firm learned about our situation so quickly? Who had given them my email address? Jake, I said slowly. How many people knew about the Marcus situation before today? Just you, me, and Marcus. Why? I showed him the investigator's email. Jake's eyes widened as he read. Someone's been making phone calls, I said. First Richard magically appears in Seattle, now we're getting solicited by private investigators. This is coordinated. Jake slumped into the chair across from my desk. You think Marcus orchestrated this? I think Marcus has been planning his next move since the moment he got hired. And I think we're about to find out exactly how far he's willing to go to protect himself. My phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Emma Rodriguez. Ms. Rodriguez, this is Detective Sarah Kim with Seattle PD. We received a report about a workplace harassment situation involving threats and stalking behavior. My blood turned to ice. I'm sorry, who filed a report? A Marcus Chen contacted us about an hour ago. He claims you've been making false accusations that are damaging his reputation and career. He's requesting a restraining order. The world tilted sideways. Marcus was trying to flip the script, painting himself as the victim. Detective Kim, Marcus Chen was terminated from his previous job for sexual harassment. He's been stalking me to investor meetings and broke into my office today. Sir, I need you to come down to the precinct to give a statement. Mr. Chen has provided some concerning documentation about alleged defamation and harassment from you. Jake was staring at me, his face cycling through confusion and dawning horror as he pieced together my half of the conversation. What kind of documentation? I asked. Screenshots of emails and text messages that he claims show a pattern of vindictive behavior. I'd rather discuss the details in person. After I hung up, Jake immediately started pacing. This is insane. Marcus is claiming you're harassing him. It's a classic Darvo tactic, I said, already Googling the detective's name to verify she was legitimate. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. Make the real victim look like the aggressor. My computer chimed with yet another email, this one from our insurance carrier. Subject, urgent, policy review required. Dear TechFlow Solutions. Asterisk, we've received notifications regarding potential employment practices liability claims. Per your policy terms, we need immediate documentation of any harassment complaints, terminations, or legal proceedings within 48 hours, asterisk. Failure to provide complete disclosure may void coverage for related claims. Please contact us immediately. Our insurance company, I told Jake, forwarding him the email. Someone tipped them off too. Jake's phone rang. He glanced at the caller ID and his face went white. It's Tom from the development team. He answered on speaker. Hey Tom, what's up? Jake, what the hell is going on? Marcus just called me asking for character references for some legal proceeding. He says Emma's been sending false information about him to clients and investors. I grabbed the phone. Tom, don't give Marcus any references. He was fired from Dataflow for sexual harassment. Emma? Jesus, this is crazy. Marcus seemed like a normal guy. Are you sure about? I have the documentation from Dataflow's HR director confirming his termination for cause. There was a long pause. Shit. He asked me to sign an affidavit saying he never exhibited inappropriate behavior here. I told him I'd think about it. After Tom hung up, I realized the scope of Marcus's strategy. He wasn't just trying to discredit me, he was systematically gathering evidence to support a defamation case while painting himself as a reformed person being persecuted for past mistakes. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, asterisk Emma, this is Jennifer Kim from Provenance Investigations. We've been retained by interested parties to investigate the Marcus Chen situation. We'd like to interview you, asterisk. I showed Jake the message. Interested parties. Someone hired private investigators. Marcus? Or Richard? Or both? I was already dialing our company lawyer, David Chen, no relation to Marcus, thankfully. David answered on the second ring. Emma, I was just about to call you. I've received some unusual inquiries today about TechFlow Solutions. What kind of inquiries? A private investigator asking about your company's harassment policies, and a very aggressive attorney from Portland claiming to represent someone who's been defamed by false workplace allegations. Portland. Where Richard was supposedly doing consulting work. David, we need to meet. Tonight if possible. This situation is escalating faster than we anticipated. I'm afraid it's about to escalate even more, David said grimly. GeekWire just published an article titled, Seattle Startup in Turmoil Over Harassment Allegations. You're quoted extensively. I hadn't spoken to any reporters. What quotes? According to this, you told someone that Marcus Chen is a serial predator who should never work in tech again, and that you're going to make sure everyone in Seattle knows what kind of person he really is. Those weren't my words, but they sounded just plausible enough to be believable. Marcus or Richard had manufactured quotes and fed them to the press. Jake was already pulling up the article on his laptop. Fuck. Emma, this makes you sound completely unhinged. The article painted a picture of a vindictive co-founder who had weaponized harassment allegations to destroy an employee's career after a personality conflict. It quoted anonymous sources describing my emotional instability and history of workplace drama. Every word was calculated to make me look like the aggressor while positioning Marcus as a victim of false accusations. They're not just trying to discredit me, I realized. They're building a defamation case with enough public documentation to claim damages. My phone rang again. This time, it was my sister calling from Portland. Emma, what the fuck is going on? Someone just called Mom asking about your mental health history and whether you've ever made false accusations before. The blood drained from my face. What did you just say? Someone called Mom and Dad's house an hour ago, my sister Carla said, her voice tight with concern. Some woman claiming to be a journalist, asking about your pattern of making false accusations and whether you'd ever been hospitalized for mental health issues. My hands started shaking. They were going after my family now. Carla, what did Mom tell her? She hung up, but Emma, what the hell? Mom's been crying for 20 minutes thinking you're having some kind of breakdown. Jake was staring at me, his face pale as he processed the implications. Going after someone's family was crossing a line that most rational people wouldn't even consider. I need to call them, I said. Carla, tell Mom and Dad not to answer calls from numbers they don't recognize. Someone's trying to build a false narrative about me. After I hung up, Jake was already typing furiously on his laptop. Emma, this is beyond harassment now. They're conducting opposition research on you. My computer chimed with an email from David Chen, our lawyer, Emma, just received a cease and desist letter from Hawkins and Associates in Portland demanding you stop making defamatory statements about their client Marcus Chen. We need to talk immediately, Hawkins and Associates, I told Jake. Ever heard of them? Jake Googled the firm. Employment litigation specialists. Their website says they handle executive defamation and false harassment claims. This is their specialty. My phone buzzed with a call from Detective Sarah Kim. I answered reluctantly. Ms. Rodriguez, I've reviewed Mr. Chen's documentation. I need to ask, did you send emails to his potential employers describing him as a predator and dangerous to women? I sent factual information about his termination from Dataflow to our client, yes. Mr. Chen has screenshots of messages allegedly from your phone number sent to 3 different companies in the past 4 hours. The language is quite inflammatory. My stomach dropped. Detective, I haven't contacted any other companies. Someone's spoofing my number. That's a serious accusation. Do you have proof that someone else sent these messages? I didn't. And Marcus clearly knew I wouldn't be able to prove a negative. Detective Kim, Marcus Chen broke into our office today using his access card after resigning. There are badge logs proving. Mr. Chen claims he returned to collect personal belongings with permission from your business partner. Is that accurate, Mr. Morrison? Jake's face went white as he realized he was being pulled into this. No, I didn't give him permission. Sir, you'll need to come in and give a formal statement. This situation has multiple conflicting claims that need to be sorted out. After she hung up, I looked at Jake, who was staring at his laptop screen with an expression of growing horror. What now? Glassdoor, he said quietly. Someone just posted a review of TechFlow from a former employee. Listen to this, management creates hostile work environment through false accusations and retaliation. HR practices are non-existent. Would not recommend to anyone, especially women who might become targets of the vindictive leadership. The review was posted 30 minutes ago by anonymous employee, former senior developer. They're systematically destroying our reputation, I said, the full scope of their strategy becoming clear. Family intimidation, legal threats, fake social media campaigns, manufactured press coverage. This isn't amateur hour. Jake's phone rang. He glanced at the caller ID and his face somehow got even paler. It's Brad Morrison, he said. My brother. Brad Morrison was a partner at Morrison & Associates, the same firm that had flagged us as a liability to Redstone Ventures earlier. Jake, I just got off the phone with Patricia Santos at Redstone. Brad's voice was tense even through the speaker. She says your company is imploding over harassment allegations. What the hell is going on? Jake looked at me helplessly. His own family was getting pulled into this mess now. Brad, it's complicated. Complicated enough that I'm getting calls from other firms asking if the Morrison name is associated with liability issues. Jake, you're potentially damaging my practice. The walls were closing in from every direction. My phone rang at 6:23 a.m., jarring me from the first real sleep I'd gotten in 3 days. Unknown Seattle number. Emma Rodriguez. Ms. Rodriguez, this is Amy Chen from Seattle Tech Weekly. I'm calling about the sexual harassment allegations against your company. Do you have a comment on Marcus Chen's defamation lawsuit? I sat up in bed, immediately alert. What lawsuit? The complaint was filed yesterday evening in King County Superior Court. Mr. Chen is seeking $2.3 million in damages for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and interference with business relations. The amount equals exactly 1 year of your company's revenue. The precision wasn't a coincidence. Someone had done their homework. I have no comment, I said, hanging up. I was pulling up the court records when my phone buzzed with a text from Jake, emergency. Office. Now. Bring David Chen, 20 minutes later, I walked into TechFlow's lobby to find Jake pacing frantically while our lawyer David Chen sat at the conference table surrounded by legal documents. The morning Seattle Times was spread open to a headline that made my stomach drop. Tech startup founders battle over harassment claims as company faces financial collapse. They got our internal financial records, Jake said without preamble. Revenue figures, burn rate, client contracts, everything quoted exactly in this article. David looked up from the lawsuit papers. Emma, this complaint is extraordinarily detailed. They have copies of your emails to Meridian Tech, internal Slack messages, even timestamps of when you accessed Marcus's employee file. I scanned the documents, my blood running cold. How is that possible? Someone with administrative access to your systems has been feeding them information, David said grimly. Either that, or they've hacked your servers. Jake stopped pacing. Administrative access. Only 3 people have that level, you, me, and Sarah, I finished. Our office manager had full system privileges for managing employee accounts. Where is Sarah this morning? David asked. Jake checked his phone. She called in sick. Food poisoning, she said. I was already dialing Sarah's number. It went straight to voicemail, not even ringing, like the phone was turned off. Check her LinkedIn profile, I told Jake. His face went ashen as he pulled it up. Her employment status changed to seeking new opportunities at 11:47 p.m. last night. 3 hours after the lawsuit was filed. David Chen leaned back in his chair. So Marcus Chen didn't just randomly decide to target you. He's had inside help from the beginning, documenting everything, building a case. My phone buzzed with an email from provenanceinvestigations@gmail.com, *Ms. Rodriguez, our investigation has uncovered additional evidence of coordinated harassment targeting our client Marcus Chen. Please cease all contact with former Dataflow employees immediately or face additional legal action, *. They're threatening me for talking to Sarah Chen at Dataflow, I told the others. The HR director who confirmed Marcus's termination. Jake was frantically typing on his laptop. Emma, look at this. I'm checking our server logs. Sarah downloaded our entire client database 3 days ago. Contact information, contract details, everything. The scope of the betrayal was staggering. Sarah had been with us for 8 months, handling our most sensitive information, trusted with employee records and financial data. She probably started working with Marcus the moment he was hired, I realized. Feeding him intelligence, documenting my reactions, setting up the perfect defamation case. David Chen was highlighting sections of the lawsuit. This explains how they knew exactly which buttons to push. They have documentation of every move you made, every email you sent, probably recordings of conversations. My office phone rang. Jake answered it on speaker. TechFlow Solutions. This is Mark Rodriguez calling for Emma Rodriguez. My father's voice was tight with stress. Someone needs to explain to me why a private investigator just showed up at my house with a subpoena. My heart stopped. Dad, what kind of subpoena? Something about providing testimony regarding your mental health history and previous accusations of harassment you've made. Emma, what the hell is going on? David Chen was already making notes. Mr. Rodriguez, don't sign anything or answer any questions without an attorney present. This is witness intimidation. They're subpoenaing my family, I said, the reality sinking in. Sarah gave them my parents' address for my emergency contact information. Jake's phone buzzed with a call from an unknown Portland number. Should I answer it? Put it on speaker, David advised. Jake Morrison. This is Richard Novak. I think we should talk before this situation gets any more out of hand. I'm prepared to help resolve things, but Emma needs to stop her vindictive campaign against Marcus. The audacity was breathtaking. Richard was positioning himself as a mediator while actively coordinating the attack. Richard, I said, grabbing Jake's phone. How exactly do you plan to help resolve the lawsuit that you helped orchestrate? Emma, Richard's voice took on a patronizing tone. You're clearly under a lot of stress. Marcus is willing to drop the legal action if you issue a public apology and agree to professional counseling for your workplace behavior issues. Counseling for my behavior issues? You mean like the behavior of reporting sexual harassment? Like the behavior of making false accusations that destroy people's careers? The Seattle tech community is watching this situation very carefully. David Chen grabbed the phone. Mr. Novak, this is TechFlow's legal counsel. Any further contact should go through me. And for the record, witness intimidation is a felony in Washington state. Richard hung up without responding. My computer chimed with an email from Jennifer Walsh at Meridian Tech, *Emma, I wanted you to know that Meridian's legal team received a letter from Marcus Chen's attorneys threatening to sue us for participating in a defamation conspiracy. We're referring the matter to our general counsel, but I thought you should be aware, *. They're going after our former clients now, I told David. Intimidating anyone who might support our version of events. David was speed reading through more legal documents. This is SLAP litigation, strategic lawsuit against public participation. They're using the legal system to silence you and drain your resources fighting frivolous claims. Jake slumped in his chair. How much is this going to cost us to fight? Conservatively. $200,000 in legal fees if it goes to trial. More if they drag it out with depositions and discovery. Our legal defense budget was exactly $15,000. We'd be bankrupted long before we could prove our innocence. There's something else, David continued. The lawsuit includes a motion for preliminary injunction. They want a court order preventing you from contacting anyone in the tech industry about Marcus Chen. A gag order. They wanted to legally silence me while they systematically destroyed my reputation. My phone buzzed with a news alert. TechFlow Solutions co-founder faces defamation lawsuit over harassment allegations. Employees report toxic work environment. Employees plural, Jake noted grimly. Who else would they have quoted? We found out an hour later when Tom from our development team called Jake, his voice shaky with stress. Jake, someone's been calling our client saying that TechFlow is under investigation for discrimination and that they should consider switching to other vendors. Morrison Industries just canceled their $150,000 contract. My hands trembled as I hung up with Tom. $150,000 gone. In the span of 4 days, we'd lost nearly $1 million in contracts, and Marcus's legal campaign was just getting started. We need to go on the offensive, I told David Chen. This slap strategy only works if we can't afford to fight back. David looked up from his legal pad. Emma, what are you thinking? Countersuit. Conspiracy, witness intimidation, tortious interference with business relations. Make this expensive for them too. Jake was staring at his laptop screen with the expression of someone watching a car accident in slow motion. Emma, look at this. Someone created a fake Twitter account using our company logo. It's tweeting about taking responsibility for toxic leadership and implementing immediate changes to protect employees. The tweet was posted 23 minutes ago and already had 47 retweets. Each share spread the narrative that TechFlow was admitting fault. Screenshot everything, David advised. Social media impersonation is identity theft. We can get law enforcement involved. My phone rang. Detective Sarah Kim again. Ms. Rodriguez, we've received additional complaints about harassment. A Sarah Chen claims you've been sending threatening messages to her personal phone. Sarah Chen, our office manager, not the Dataflow HR director. The traitor was now claiming to be my victim. Detective, Sarah Chen had access to all our systems. She downloaded our client database and fed confidential information to Marcus Chen's legal team. That's a separate matter for civil court. Right now, I have screenshots of text messages from your phone number threatening her family if she doesn't recant statements she made to Mr. Chen's investigators. The blood drained from my face. I never sent any threatening messages. Someone's spoofing my number again. Ms. Rodriguez, these messages include personal details about Sarah Chen's home address and children's school schedule. That level of detail suggests the sender has access to her employment records. They were framing me using information that Sarah herself had provided. The setup was diabolically clever. Who else would have access to employee personal data except company leadership? Detective Kim, I need to show you something. Sarah Chen downloaded our entire database 3 days ago. She's been working with Marcus Chen too. Ma'am, you'll need to bring that evidence to the station. I'm issuing a no-contact order. You're prohibited from communicating with Sarah Chen through any medium pending investigation. After she hung up, I realized the trap was tightening. Every move I made to defend myself was being twisted into evidence of harassment. David Chen was reviewing something on his tablet. Emma, I just got served with a motion to compel. They want access to your personal devices, email accounts, and therapy records. Therapy records? They're claiming you have a history of making false accusations due to underlying mental health issues. Standard character assassination tactics. Jake's phone buzzed with a call from his brother Brad. He answered reluctantly. Brad, I can't talk right now. Jake, you need to shut down TechFlow immediately. Brad's voice was sharp with panic. 3 of my clients just called asking if Morrison and Associates is affiliated with your company. This scandal is contaminating my practice. Brad, we're fighting back. We have evidence that Marcus orchestrated. I don't care about your evidence. File for bankruptcy, liquidate the assets, and make this go away before it destroys both our careers. Jake hung up, his face pale. My own brother wants me to kill the company. My computer chimed with an email from our landlord, *TechFlow Solutions. Multiple tenants have complained about media disruption in the building. Please contact us immediately regarding early lease termination options, *. Even our office space was being weaponized against us. They're trying to make us homeless, I said, forwarding the email to David. Force us to operate out of coffee shops while they control the narrative. David's phone rang. He answered it, his expression growing darker with each word. That was the Washington State Bar Association, he said after hanging up. Someone filed a complaint claiming I'm helping you harass witnesses and intimidate victims. They're opening an ethics investigation. The strategy was becoming clear: isolate us from allies, drain our resources, and make it impossible for anyone to help us without risking their own careers. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, *check GeekWire. Final warning, *. The latest article was devastating. TechFlow founders' family members described pattern of vindictive behavior dating back years. It quoted anonymous sources, supposedly my own relatives, describing me as always quick to blame others and unable to accept responsibility. Someone had been calling my extended family, cousins I barely spoke to, gathering quotes that could be twisted to support Marcus's narrative. But as I read the article more carefully, I noticed something. One quote attributed to my former roommate described an incident that never happened, in a city I'd never lived in. They were getting sloppy. David, I said, highlighting the fabricated quote on my laptop screen. They made a mistake. Our lawyer leaned over to read the passage I'd marked. Emma's former college roommate, who asked not to be identified, recalls an incident in Denver where Emma falsely accused a professor of inappropriate behavior after receiving a poor grade. I've never lived in Denver, I continued. Never even visited. And I went to University of Washington. All my roommates are still friends with me. David's eyes lit up. This is fabricated evidence. We can prove defamation. Jake looked up from his phone, where he'd been frantically trying to reach our remaining clients. How does that help us? The damage is already done. Because, I said, screenshotting the article, if we can prove they're manufacturing quotes, it calls everything else into question. Including the anonymous employee reviews, the fake social media posts, all of it. My phone rang. Carla again. Emma, this is getting insane. Someone just called cousin Maria in Phoenix asking about some incident at your college graduation that supposedly happened in Denver. Maria told them you graduated from UW in Seattle, and the person got flustered and hung up. Maria's in Phoenix. Yeah, why, oh shit. Emma, they're calling everyone in our family tree. Even people you haven't talked to in years. I put the call on speaker so David could hear. Carla, did Maria get the caller's name or number? Some woman claiming to be from Truth Verification Services. Said it was for a background check. Maria thought it sounded fishy. Truth Verification Services. I googled the company while Carla talked. The website was registered 4 days ago, right after I'd sent that first email to Jennifer Walsh at Meridian Tech. David, they created a fake investigation company to make their harassment of my family seem legitimate. David was already typing notes. This is witness tampering on a massive scale. Emma, we need to document every single contact they've made with your family members. My computer chimed with an email from our web hosting provider, *security alert, multiple login attempts detected on TechFlow Solutions website admin panel. Account temporarily locked for protection, *. Someone was trying to hack our website now. Jake's phone buzzed with a call from Tom in our development team. He answered on speaker, his face already resigned. Jake, I'm sorry, but I'm putting in my notice. Tom's voice was strained. My wife is 8 months pregnant, and we can't afford to be associated with whatever's happening there. Alex is quitting too. Tom, please. Someone called my wife's boss yesterday asking about my involvement in the harassment cover-up. Her boss started asking questions about whether I was a liability. We can't risk her maternity leave getting complicated. After Tom hung up, Jake stared at his phone like it had personally betrayed him. That's our entire front-end team. Gone. Which means we can't deliver the Morrison Industries project even if we get the contract back, I realized. They're not just destroying our current business, they're making sure we can't rebuild. David Chen was reading something on his tablet, his expression growing grimmer. The preliminary injunction hearing is scheduled for tomorrow at 2 p.m. If the judge grants it, Emma, you'll be legally prohibited from discussing Marcus Chen with anyone. Including you. Including me. And any violation would be contempt of court, potential jail time. My phone buzzed with a text from Detective Sarah Kim, *Ms. Rodriguez, please report to SPD headquarters by 3 p.m. today for formal questioning regarding the threatening messages. Bring ID and be prepared to provide phone records, *. They wanted my phone records. Which would show that I hadn't sent those threatening texts, but would also reveal every call I'd made, every person I'd contacted about Marcus. More ammunition for their harassment narrative. David, can they force me to turn over my phone? Not without a warrant. But refusing to cooperate makes you look guilty in the press. Jake was staring at his laptop screen, his face white. Emma, you need to see this. He'd pulled up our company bank account. Our balance had dropped from $340,000 to $89,000 in 4 days. Legal fees, refunded client payments, cancelled contracts, our war chest was evaporating. At this burn rate, we have maybe 2 weeks before bankruptcy, Jake said quietly. My phone rang. Unknown number, but I recognized the Portland area code. Emma Rodriguez. Ms. Rodriguez, this is attorney Jessica Hawkins from Hawkins & Associates. I represent Marcus Chen. I'm calling to offer a final settlement opportunity before tomorrow's hearing. I put the call on speaker so David could hear. What kind of settlement? Full public apology admitting that your accusations were false, $500,000 in damages to compensate Mr. Chen for reputational harm, and your resignation from TechFlow Solutions. In exchange, we'll drop the lawsuit and the criminal harassment complaints. David Chen was frantically scribbling notes, don't agree to anything. And if I refuse? I asked. Then we proceed with the full legal action. I should mention that we've identified additional victims of your harassment, former employees from your previous jobs who are prepared to testify about your pattern of vindictive behavior. My stomach dropped. They've been researching my entire work history, probably contacting every company I'd ever worked for. Ms. Hawkins, you have until 5 p.m. today to respond, the lawyer continued. After that, the settlement offer expires and we pursue maximum damages. She hung up. I looked at David, whose expression was grave. They're trying to force a decision before we can build our defense, he said. Classic pressure tactic. Jake was slumped in his chair, staring at our bank balance. Emma, maybe we should consider. Consider what? Admitting to harassment I never committed? Paying $500,000 we don't have? Consider that maybe this fight isn't worth destroying everything we built. The betrayal in his voice was unmistakable. My own business partner was ready to throw me under the bus to save the company. Jake, if we give in now, Marcus wins. And the next woman he targets won't have any recourse because we'll have established that his harassment was actually justified. My phone buzzed with an email from Sarah Chen at Dataflow, the HR director, not our traitorous office manager. Subject, urgent, additional documentation available. Emma. I've been contacted by investigators claiming to represent you, asking for additional information about Marcus Chen. I want to verify these requests are legitimate before releasing any confidential personnel records, *. Also, our legal team discovered something concerning. Someone has been impersonating Dataflow employees in communications with other companies, providing false references for Marcus Chen as recently as this week. Call me immediately. Sarah. I grabbed Jake's arm. Someone's been impersonating Dataflow employees to give Marcus fresh references. While he's suing me for defamation, he's literally committing fraud to get new job opportunities. David Chen looked up sharply. That's criminal fraud. Emma, this could be the break we need. I called Sarah Chen at Dataflow immediately, my hands shaking as I dialed. She answered on the first ring. Emma, thank God. I've been getting calls all morning from someone claiming to be your attorney, demanding Marcus's complete personnel file. The voice sounded suspicious, so I started asking verification questions. What kind of questions? Basic things about TechFlow, your company address, Jake's last name, your employee count. They got everything wrong. Said you had 60 employees and were located in Bellevue. David Chen grabbed his notepad, scribbling furiously. This was concrete evidence of fraud. Sarah, you said someone's been impersonating Dataflow employees? Yesterday, a company called Nexus Technologies in Portland called our main line asking to verify employment for Marcus Chen. When HR transferred the call to me, the Nexus recruiter said she'd already spoken with someone claiming to be our CTO who gave Marcus glowing references. My pulse quickened. We don't have a CTO anymore. Richard Novak left 8 months ago. Exactly. But whoever spoke to Nexus knew enough internal details to sound legitimate, project names, client information, even our old office layout. Someone with serious inside knowledge was impersonating our company. Jake was frantically typing on his laptop. Emma, look at this. Marcus updated his LinkedIn again this morning. He's listed 3 new references from Dataflow, including 2 people who don't exist anymore. Sarah, can you email me documentation of these fake reference calls? Times, dates, company names. Already compiling it. Emma, there's something else. Our IT department found unusual access attempts to Marcus's old employee file over the past week. Someone's been trying to hack our HR system from multiple IP addresses. After I hung up, David Chen was pacing excitedly. This changes everything. Identity fraud, computer hacking, impersonation, these are federal crimes. We can get the FBI involved. My phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. I answered cautiously. Emma Rodriguez? This is Michael Santos from Nexus Technologies in Portland. I understand there's some confusion about Marcus Chen's references. I put it on speaker. What kind of confusion? We offered Marcus a senior developer position yesterday based on excellent references from Dataflow Industries. But this morning, their actual HR director called saying no one from their company had spoken to us. Now I'm wondering if we've been victims of reference fraud. Jake was Googling Nexus Technologies. They're legitimate, $12 million annual revenue, 43 employees. Marcus almost scammed his way into a real job. Mr. Santos, Marcus Chen was actually terminated from Dataflow for sexual harassment, I said. Any references he provided were fraudulent. Jesus Christ. We were planning to announce his hiring tomorrow. If we'd gone public with this. Santos's voice trailed off as he realized how close they'd come to a PR disaster. David Chen leaned toward the phone. Mr. Santos, this is TechFlow's legal counsel. We'd appreciate documentation of any fraudulent references Marcus provided. We're building a criminal case. After Santos hung up, I felt hope for the first time in days. Marcus's desperation to find new employment was exposing his fraudulent tactics. My computer chimed with an email from Jessica Hawkins, Marcus's attorney, *Ms. Rodriguez, our 5 p.m. settlement deadline stands. Be advised that rejecting our offer will result in expanded charges including criminal harassment and witness intimidation. We have additional evidence being prepared for tomorrow's hearing, *. Additional evidence, I said, showing David the email. They're still manufacturing fake documentation. Jake's phone rang. He checked the caller ID and his face went pale. It's our accountant. He answered on speaker. Hi Paula, what's up? Jake, I just got served with a subpoena demanding TechFlow's complete financial records for the past 2 years. Someone's conducting a forensic audit of your books. My heart sank. What kind of audit? The subpoena mentions misappropriation of funds for personal vendettas and improper use of company resources for harassment activities. They're claiming you used company money to investigate employees. David Chen was already making notes. Paula, who served the subpoena? Private investigator from something called Truth Verification Services. Same people who've been calling Emma's family. The fake investigation company was now issuing legal documents. The audacity was staggering. My phone buzzed with a text from Detective Kim, *Ms. Rodriguez, new evidence has been provided regarding your harassment of witnesses. Please report to SPD immediately with your attorney, *. They're escalating, I told David. Whatever fake evidence they manufactured must be convincing. Jake was staring at his laptop screen with growing horror. Emma, someone just posted our entire client list on Reddit with the headline, Companies that support workplace harassment. It includes contact information for every CEO and project manager we've ever worked with. 47 clients. Their personal phone numbers, email addresses, and detailed descriptions of our projects. Our competitors would have a field day. That's our confidential client database, I realized. Sarah Chen downloaded it before she quit. They're weaponizing our own data against us. David's phone rang. He answered grimly, his expression darkening with each word. That was Judge Patricia Morrison's clerk, he said after hanging up. Tomorrow's preliminary injunction hearing has been moved up to 9 a.m. Emergency scheduling due to escalating harassment concerns. My phone rang. Another unknown Portland number. Ms. Rodriguez? This is Channel 8 News. We're running a story tonight about the TechFlow harassment scandal. Do you have any comment on the criminal charges being filed against you? I hung up without responding, but the damage was already done. By evening, this would be on television. We're out of time, I said, looking at David and Jake. Whatever we're going to do, it has to be now. My phone buzzed at 11:47 p.m. with a call from Detective Kim. I'd been sitting in my apartment for 3 hours, staring at the ceiling and trying to figure out how to salvage anything from tomorrow's hearing. Ms. Rodriguez, we have a situation. Marcus Chen just filed an emergency restraining order claiming you've been outside his apartment building for the past 2 hours. I sat up straight. Detective, I've been home all evening. I have witnesses, my neighbors saw me come in at 6 p.m. Sir, do you have any way to prove your whereabouts? Security cameras, credit card receipts, anything time-stamped? I frantically checked my phone's location history. My GPS shows I've been at my Belltown apartment since 5:43 p.m. I ordered dinner through DoorDash at 7:15, there should be delivery records. Text me those screenshots immediately. Mr. Chen provided photos of someone matching your description sitting in a silver Honda Civic outside his Capitol Hill building. My blood ran cold. Detective, I drive a blue Toyota Prius. I don't even know where Marcus lives. After sending the GPS evidence, I called David Chen despite the late hour. He answered on the second ring, already sounding wide awake. Emma, what's happening now? They're claiming I was stalking Marcus tonight. Someone was outside his apartment in a car that vaguely matches mine. This is escalating beyond civil litigation, David said grimly. They're trying to get you arrested before tomorrow's hearing. If you're in custody, you can't defend yourself in court. My phone chimed with a text from an unknown number, *, stop fighting this. You're only making it worse for yourself. Last chance to take the settlement, *. I screenshotted it and forwarded it to David. Anonymous threats now. Save everything. This pattern of escalation suggests they're getting desperate too. At 12:23 a.m., my building's fire alarm started blaring. I grabbed my laptop and phone, rushing down the stairwell with 30 other confused residents. Outside on the sidewalk, I spotted something that made my skin crawl, a man with a camera, taking photos of the evacuating tenants. Emma Rodriguez? He approached with a press badge hanging around his neck. I'm with Seattle Metro Weekly. Can you comment on the stalking charges? How had he known to be here for a random fire alarm? Unless it wasn't random. No comment, I said, pulling my hood up and walking toward the parking garage. My Prius had been keyed. Deep scratches ran along both sides, and someone had written "liar" across the windshield in red paint. I called 911, then David, then took photos of everything. While waiting for the police, I noticed a figure watching from across the street, too far to identify, but clearly focused on me. At 1:15 a.m., Officer Martinez finished documenting the vandalism. Ms. Rodriguez, given the ongoing harassment case, I'd recommend staying somewhere else tonight. This feels coordinated. I drove to Jake's house in Fremont, checking my rearview mirror obsessively. At a red light on Aurora Avenue, I noticed the same black SUV that had been behind me for the past 6 blocks. When I turned left toward Jake's neighborhood, the SUV continued straight. But as I parked outside Jake's townhouse, I saw it again, now parked at the end of his street with the engine running. I called David Chin. Someone's following me. Black SUV, license plate starts with KDR. Emma, go inside immediately. Don't come out until morning. I'm documenting this as witness intimidation. Jake answered his door in pajamas, looking exhausted. Emma. What's wrong now? I explained the fire alarm, the vandalism, the photographer, the tale. His face grew paler with each detail. They're trying to break you down before court, he said, deadbolting the door behind me. Sleep deprivation, constant stress, make you look unstable tomorrow. At 2:07 a.m., Jake's doorbell rang. We looked at each other in alarm. Who would be visiting at this hour? Through the peephole, I saw a Seattle police officer. Jake opened the door cautiously. Are you harboring Emma Rodriguez? The officer's tone was official but tired. I'm right here, I said, stepping into view. Ma'am, we have a report that you violated the no-contact order by sending threatening messages to Sarah Chin an hour ago. I held up my phone. Officer, my phone's been in airplane mode since midnight. David Chin advised me to limit communications until tomorrow's hearing. The officer checked my phone settings, confirming airplane mode had been activated at 11:58 p.m. Someone's spoofing her number again, Jake told the officer. This is the 3rd time this week. After the officer left, I slumped on Jake's couch, emotionally drained. They're not going to stop until I'm either in jail or completely destroyed. Jake made coffee despite the late hour. Emma, there's something I need to tell you. I've been thinking about Brad's advice. About shutting down TechFlow. My stomach dropped. Jake. Listen, please. If we file for bankruptcy, the civil lawsuit becomes meaningless. Marcus can't collect damages from a defunct company. You could start fresh somewhere else. And he wins. Completely. But you survive. Emma, at this rate, they're going to destroy you personally even if we somehow win the legal case. My phone buzzed with an email from David Chin, *emergency update. Just received Marcus's additional evidence for tomorrow's hearing. They have audio recordings, *. I called David immediately, my hands shaking. What kind of recordings? Phone calls allegedly between you and various witnesses, discussing how to coordinate stories and make Marcus pay. The audio quality suggests professional equipment. My mind raced. David, I never made calls like that. Someone's using voice synthesis. I believe you, but the recordings are sophisticated. Without expert analysis, they'll sound genuine to a judge. Jake was listening to my half of the conversation, his expression growing more resigned. There's more, David continued. They submitted a psychological evaluation claiming you have borderline personality disorder with vindictive tendencies. Signed by Dr. Richard Chin. I've never seen any Dr. Richard Chin. This is all fabricated. I know, but proving that takes time we don't have. Emma, they're building toward criminal charges. Conspiracy, witness intimidation, stalking. If even half this evidence seems credible, you could face serious jail time. At 3:44 a.m., sitting in Jake's kitchen with cold coffee and mounting despair, I finally understood the scope of what I was facing. This wasn't just about Marcus Chin anymore. Someone with serious resources and legal expertise was systematically destroying my life, piece by piece. My phone buzzed with one final text from the unknown number, *9 a.m. hearing will be your last chance. Take the settlement or lose everything, *. In 6 hours, I'd be fighting for my freedom against an enemy who seemed to have unlimited resources and no moral boundaries. The question was, did I have anything left to fight with? At 4:17 a.m., staring at my phone in Jake's kitchen, I made a decision that would either save me or destroy whatever was left of my life. I called Sarah Chin at Dataflow. Her home number, which I'd kept from our previous conversations. Emma. Jesus, it's 4 in the morning. Sarah, I need you to conference in FBI agent Jennifer Walsh. The real Jennifer Walsh. There was a pause. What are you talking about? The Jennifer Walsh I've been emailing at Meridian Tech. She's FBI. White Collar Crime Division. I figured it out an hour ago when I cross-referenced her email signature with federal employee directories. Jake was staring at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. Sarah, Marcus, and Richard didn't just target me. They've been running employment fraud schemes across multiple companies. The FBI has been tracking them for months. Emma, how do you? Because Agent Walsh just called me. The Meridian Tech contract was a federal sting operation. Every email I sent, every piece of evidence I provided, it all went straight to an ongoing investigation. At 6:23 a.m., Agent Jennifer Walsh sat in Jake's living room with 2 other federal agents, surrounded by boxes of evidence. The woman I'd thought was a potential client was actually a 15-year FBI veteran specializing in employment fraud conspiracies. Ms. Rodriguez, you've been an unknowing informant in Operation Clean Slate, Agent Walsh explained. We've been tracking Marcus Chen and Richard Novak for 18 months. They've defrauded 12 companies and harassed at least 8 women across 4 states. Jake nearly dropped his coffee. The Meridian contract was fake. Completely fabricated. We created the company identity to draw out their network. When Emma contacted me about Marcus's harassment history, she provided the final pieces we needed. Agent Walsh opened her laptop, showing us surveillance photos of Marcus, Richard, Sarah Chen, and 3 people I didn't recognize. Your former office manager Sarah Chen is actually Sarah Martinez, a professional identity thief. She's infiltrated 6 tech companies over the past 2 years, gathering intelligence for employment fraud schemes. The scope was staggering. This wasn't just about my harassment complaints, it was an organized criminal enterprise. The fake investigation company, the manufactured evidence, the coordinated media campaign, Agent Walsh continued. We've been documenting everything. Marcus thought he was silencing a harassment victim. He was actually confessing to federal crimes. At 8:47 a.m., 13 minutes before my court hearing was scheduled to begin, Agent Walsh's team arrested Marcus Chen in the courthouse parking lot. The charges: wire fraud, identity theft, conspiracy to commit extortion, and violation of federal anti-stalking statutes. Richard Novak was arrested simultaneously at his Portland hotel. Sarah Martinez was picked up at Seattle-Tacoma Airport, attempting to board a flight to Vancouver. Judge Patricia Morrison looked confused as federal agents filled her courtroom at exactly 9 a.m. Your Honor, Agent Walsh announced, the plaintiff Marcus Chen is currently in federal custody. His lawsuit was part of a criminal conspiracy to extort money through fraudulent harassment claims. Jessica Hawkins, Marcus's attorney, went pale as Agent Walsh handed her a federal indictment. Her law firm was listed as an unknowing accomplice in a conspiracy. Marcus had paid them with funds stolen from other fraud victims. Your Honor, I move to dismiss all proceedings, Hawkins said quickly. My client appears to have misrepresented the facts of this case. The preliminary injunction hearing that was supposed to silence me forever lasted exactly 7 minutes. At 11:34 a.m., I walked out of the courthouse as a free woman. The criminal charges against me were dropped. The civil lawsuit was dismissed with prejudice. The restraining orders were vacated. Jake was waiting on the courthouse steps, grinning for the first time in a week. Emma, Agent Walsh says the FBI will be recommending us for the federal whistleblower program. We might actually get paid for this nightmare. My phone buzzed with a call from the real Meridian Tech, the actual company, not the FBI front. Apparently, news of our role in exposing a major fraud ring had impressed some legitimate clients. Ms. Rodriguez? This is Jennifer Park from Meridian Technologies. We heard about your situation on the news, and we'd like to discuss a genuine partnership. As I walked back to TechFlow's office, my phone kept buzzing. Reporters wanting interviews about taking down a fraud network. Clients apologizing for canceling contracts. 3 different companies asking about hiring our security consulting services. The Seattle Times ran a front-page story that evening, local entrepreneur helps FBI bust multi-state employment fraud ring. The article that had destroyed my reputation just days earlier was replaced by one calling me a whistleblower hero. Marcus Chen was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. Richard Novak got 3 years. Sarah Martinez received 18 months and was ordered to pay $400,000 in restitution. TechFlow Solutions recovered. Our revenue hit $3.2 million the following year, and we opened that Portland office Jake had dreamed about. But the best part? The FBI's investigation uncovered harassment complaints against Marcus at 6 other companies, complaints that had been buried or dismissed. Those women finally got justice. Sometimes the only way to stop a predator is to let them think they're winning, right until the moment they destroy themselves.